All right, welcome back to the IMNerdpodcast, guys. I'm your host, Freyway. I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And today we are here with the 3v3 team that just got third placed. My own team, the House. The House always wins was our slogan.
The House always wins.
It's actually really fun being here with Stang0 and a true hero. These two are literally some of my longest term friends at this point. I don't really make new friends these days. So I've known these two for literally years. We've been in a group chat for literally years on Discord, and it was just kind of poetic that we ended up, playing in a 3v3 together where you're allowed to coach and be on Discord calls and everything with your friends. It was kind of like what we always do anyway. Like when we play Yu-Gi-Oh, we're kind of all just in a call, and Stang0 and Cairo play each other all the time. They do like a progression series of their own and stuff. So all of us are very accustomed to each other and our own mannerisms, our own quirks and stuff, and how each of us talk and how we play and everything. It was really, really fun. I am glad that it worked out this way, because initially, for people who don't know, I imagine most people don't, but I was going to be on a team with Nazar Sarhan, who was featured on the 2 Masters series, and he's also a 2-time YCS champion, really good player and everything like that, and I thought that team would be pretty stacked. We were having a hard time figuring out who we wanted to be our third, and then he ended up saying, you know what, how about you go your way, I'll go my way, and we both have friends that the other person doesn't know. He doesn't know Cairo, right? They don't know each other really at all, and then some of the people that he, I think one of his teammates ended up being his cousin or something, who I don't know at all. So we were we're just going to go with the people that we actually know, right? And that actually worked out in our favor, because I think chemistry does matter. I think it's easier playing with people who you normally talk to and coordinate with, as opposed to maybe just a random team of 3 players. Even if the 3 players are good, there might just be some things that you guys can't really agree on, and there might be power dynamics and struggles and stuff that are weird. I do
think that's kind of true. I think you and Nazar obviously are both incredible players, but I also think that you both have a certain ego, and where it might be hard for you guys to it's hard for a team to have 2 Kobes.
Yes, I agree.
I was actually about to say the word ego. If you weren't going to get to it, I was just I feel like when you're definitely talking about champions, there's definitely a bit of a ego champion swing around that can get in the way of collaboratively working your best with the team.
Especially when a play has to be made, right? And then the 2 people on the team who are having a hard time agreeing with each other, it can cause a lot of problems. I've actually been in that situation before, because I've teamed up with McCabe and Silverman in certain situations, and all of us are really, really good at Yu-Gi-Oh, and we both played all 3 of us have played for pretty much the same amount of time. So it's really, really difficult when everyone thinks that they have the right play, and 3 different people have 3 different plays. It's holy shit.
And imagine the third person in this situation. You don't have someone as accomplished as you two. Imagine the third person have to sit in the middle. They have to be the one that has to make the play, but Nazar and Frazier are the ones telling you to do 2 different things. You're just oh my god, what the fuck? Yeah, imagine me. I'm sitting there. I'm just
mom and dad are
in actuality that situation isn't even as bad, because I probably would just side with Frazier just because I've known Frazier longer. But
even that brings up its own problems, right? Because then it could turn into a thing where
the
could
other
feel
person, some type of way. It's just you're just listening to Frazier.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's definitely an interesting thing I didn't even think about, with the potential of you guys teaming on the same team.
Yeah, so
it's actually funny because I wasn't even planning on entering into 3v3. Again, this is another tournament that I wasn't planning on entering. And what happened was Gary was the one who mentioned it. And he's like, Cairo, you should enter into 3v3. And I'm like, well, Gary, I don't have a team. I was like, you want a team together? He's like, I'm going to be at the Philly Regional. I was like, okay, well, then I don't know. If I find a team, then I'll enter, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then Stang0 hit me up and was like, hey, Cairo, you want a team? I was like, yeah, Stang0, let's do it. As long as you find a good third, then we can do it.
A good third.
And then he's like, okay, let's team up with Jalen. And I was like, nope. If no offense. I was like, I like Jalen, he's cool, but I'm not trying to just enter just to have fun.
You know what it was? Is that when Frazier pretty much just said, I'm gonna team with Nazar, I was at the point where I was like, well, I've never entered a 3v3. You
just want
if I can't have Frazier, then I'm not gonna really hold out for the experience of having a fucking strong ass team.
Yeah.
I'll make it halfway. If I get Cairo, and then someone else that like, can pick up cards, we'll just do that.
Yeah, because Jalen is even newer to Yu-Gi-Oh than you. Jalen started in 2022, like the end of 2022, playing Yu-Gi-Oh. You started in 2020, basically. So like, it's crazy to have a team with Cairo, who's been playing for almost as long as me, and then to have Jalen, who's really new, and then you, who's also pretty new, all on the team. It would be like the most stressful thing for Cairo, I feel like, because he would just have like 2 students of the game on his team while he's smashing his opponents. But if you guys need help at any point, and Jalen, I think the biggest thing for him is that he just needs more experience because he doesn't know a lot of rulings, and that's a big part of Yu-Gi-Oh, unfortunately, where you just have to know so many things, and if you don't, your opponents will get over on you. It's just like how people are. If you don't catch certain things, like trap dust shoot, yes.
Yep, just like trap dust shoot.
But I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that everything worked out because prior to you guys getting on a team, there was a point where Luke Feeney, I think, was in consideration, and then he said he didn't want to play. And Luke is a really good player. Like he's a really, really, really good Yu-Gi-Oh player.
He just plays bad decks.
He just plays terrible decks. So like, for as good as he is, he nerfs himself by playing shit like Macro Monarchs and Gadgets. It's like, bro, you could just play a real deck, and you would be literally one of the scariest people in the format, but you choose to play tier 6, so you're going to get those results, and don't be mad when your opponent blows you out the game when you're playing DD Survivor or Macrocosmos deck. Like, don't get me wrong, almost any deck in Edison can like do something, but over the course of however many rounds, we ended up playing 8 total, it looks like. Over the course of 8 rounds, like I just don't see it. I don't see it for decks like that. You just have to be, if you look at the decks that topped, like they only did a top 6, it looks like, on the website, on Format Library, but like the top 6 teams. So there's 18 deck lists, and they are real, okay? Like they are, I looked at it this morning, because all the deck lists are there, all our names are there and everything. Like Stang0, you're on the website, everything's there, and there are decks, like there's Christia Sworn, there's Blackwings, there's Frogs, there's like literally Machina Control, all of the real decks are represented, Value Turbo, everything. So I don't really see much fake nonsense going on.
I was going to say, I watched Kairo's a True Heroes YouTube. I watched your tournament profile, your 2-hour tournament profile of all of your matches, and you didn't play one fake deck. Like every deck you played was a real deck.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us played any fake decks.
I don't think any of us played anything fake.
Like we didn't play against like randomly Flame Veil.
I played against Glad Beast twice. So
but you were playing
played against one Glad Beast.
But Glad Beasts weren't fake to you.
Yes, they're not fake. They're not fake to me. And you know what's really annoying? So I always say, like, in these online tournaments, I swear someone is literally like stacking the bracket or something, because every time I play a deck, I get hard countered. My last tournament that I played them before this, well, not the Beast Mode one, but the one before that, so RBET 1, I was playing with Christia Sworn, and my round 1 opponent was playing an anti-meta deck with like Banisher to Radiances and D-Fishers and Thunder Kings and everything. Like game 1, turn 1, anti-meta, Summon Thunder King set 4 vibes. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is this and then games 2 is just like Fossil Diamonds, D-Fishers, all that good stuff. And then round 2, so I lose to that guy, and then round 2, I play against another anti-meta guy, and I actually end up beating that one. But that's my tournament experience, where I just end up with these really awkwardly bad matchups for whatever deck I chose that day. It's like, this is the exact counter to what I'm playing. And I was really annoyed in the 3v3 when I won the die roll round 1. And I'm going first. My hand is actually fine. I have Swap Frog and I have Monarchs. So my hand is fine. I also have Threatening Roar. And I decided, because, this is the normal play, but I go Swap Frog, Sentryborn Frog, bounce Swap Frog to my hand. I do not set Threatening Roar, because the more I think about it, the more it's not correct to just set Threatening Roar turn 1 unless you do know what your opponent's playing. Like if I know I'm playing against Value Turbo, I might set it because you could actually die. For some reason, that deck can just kill you. It does take a very specific hand, but it can happen. And GBs, you would always set the Threatening Roar. So I didn't know I was playing against Glad Beast, but I ended up playing against Glad Beast, and I pass with a Treeborn in my grave and no protection in my hand. And he goes, draw, summon Darius, attack, tag out for Ready Ari. And I, on the call, like Stang0 and Cairo had to hear me just bitching and complaining, because I was like, oh my fucking goodness, this guy's playing Glad Beast. Why do people enter these tournaments with these shitty decks? Like, what is wrong with y'all? Stop doing this. Like, this is so bad.
It's so funny too, because I know that the was it the PS5 tournament where McCabe Glad Beast?
Yes, and he was 6-0. So he ruined a lot of people's day.
Everybody was high on Glad Beast. And then I watched because I'm not aware of all of the videos Fraser makes. So sometimes when videos get uploaded to our YouTube, they're a surprise to me too. Yep. So I watched Fraser play with McCabe's Glad Beast deck,
Oh God!
and that video is
that
the
was
most
bad.
miserable video. Fraser is miserable.
We had a similar experience on MMP where we I forget exactly what deck it was. I don't think it was GB's, but I think it was a different deck, and we were just like, "This is never happening ever again."
That was the Evil Hero deck when you guys were playing, right?
Yes,
That was
that's what it
another one.
was.
Yes, that was. I'm good call.
Oh, it was Zombies. Zombies was the first one.
But the Evil Hero one was the one where I said this story does not have a good ending.
Yes.
Yep.
And
I remember.
and I lost my. That's the one where I raged at the beginning.
That was one of your
best.
best monologues. I think
Yes.
people just tune into NMP sometimes. They're like, "Will Fraser have a monologue this week?"
Yeah, because I raged out and Stang0 was just laughing. He's like, "You're dead. You're just fucking dead. Pick your shit up." And I'm just.
Is that
like,
another one?
I was the second fossil dino came down, and I was like, "Is that another one?" I didn't even see him summon the first fossil dino. I was so confused. How did he get 2 fossil dinos on the field? My deck was so fucking bad. I said this guy had to have drawn Stratos turn 1 of every single game, and it had to resolve with no questions every single game. Anyway, I was afraid that despite the fact that I know I'm a really, really good player, but I have terrible luck when I play in online tournaments. Typically, however, I think my luck has changed a little bit because the week prior to this event, I played in Beast Mode's Circus Series, really small tournaments, only like 16 people. They're on Friday nights. Gary told me about them because he played in one the week prior. And I was like, oh, I want to play in one of those. So I played in the 5th one. And I ended up winning it, but I only had to play 2 rounds because my round 1 opponent just didn't show up. And then when they finally came, it was like 30 minutes. He was like, oh, sorry, my bad. I was doing something. Like, it was like, you can't just do that. And then my round 2 opponent, I beat them. And then round 3, my opponent was like, hey, I'm going out. It's Friday night. Peace out. And I was like, what the fuck? So then they were like, well, you're in the finals. They were like, you're in the finals now. So instead of me going straight to the finals, they had me play against 10-foot Dick, and we played like an exhibition match. And that was really fun. I got to play against Vayu Turbo, which actually helped me to tweak my deck for the 3v3 because of just how aggressive that deck is.
Yeah, because Vayu was really popping off that tournament.
Yes. Vayu
so
is
much Vayu.
Very, very good in general. Like, it's a very, very good deck. And when you look at it on paper, it kind of doesn't read that way. But I think that it actually is just a deck of really good cards, and it plays, you know, some of the strongest cards in the format being Caius, Sirocco, Vayu, because Black Wings is, you know, in my opinion, Black Wings is still the best deck. I think Black Wings actually won the 3v3, right? Like, one of the people playing in the 3v3. One of the decks that won the 3v3 was a Vayu Turbo deck was in that group of 3 people. So Black Wings definitely, and they got second. Like, I lost to the guy who got second with he just whirlwind shorted me out the tournament, basically, game 1. Yeah, so Black Wings is really strong, and Vayu Turbo just plays like a lot of their cards. But here's what I'll say about our 3v3 experience prior to this. I already knew going into it that I could trust Cairo because he's a better Diva Hero player than I am. I do not play that deck nearly as much. And when I first got in Edison last year, that was the deck I was forced to play when McCabe handed it to me. And I did not enjoy it as much, even though I still did well with it, like the few weeks that I was forced to play before I got my own cards. I was able to do well with it, but it didn't, you know how something just doesn't feel right to you. Like, it just wasn't what I wanted to play. So I took a long time trying to find where I belonged in Edison format is kind of what it took a while for me. But Cairo has found his groove, and it just fucking fits like a glove. So I knew that Stang0 and Cairo basically had both decided we're not playing in the 3v3. And I was like, this is perfect. I can just be on this team with people who I already know. And one of them literally is just perfect with his deck. I don't have to worry about him at all. And then Stang0 and me do master and the pupil. So we already have a relationship where I'm coaching him anyway. And so as soon as I saw in bold, coaching is allowed for the rule set, I was like, oh, this is what I do every week. Like, we do this every week, almost every day. Yep. Like, this is perfect. Yep. So it's great. And then I tweaked the deck Friday night. So after the Beast Mode tournament, I win that, and I say, okay, I want to change a couple things. So I put in another Battle Fader just for more defense. I put in a 3rd Econ because I think that it's foolish to play any kind of frog deck without 3 Econs now. That card is just actually not okay. I mean, we all think
especially with hindsight now after the tournament.
Yes,
it's like 3 Econs mandatory.
We all think Brain Control is the best card in the format. I think everybody in this call does. So if Brain Control is the best card in the format, then why wouldn't you just play 4 copies of it? So I made some tweaks to the deck, and then I sent it to Stang0 the night before the tournament. I was like, this is what we're playing. I was like, I am not going back and forth about this. I'm not taking any inquiries about why I'm playing certain things. Like, there was one random soul exchange in the main deck. MST was in the side deck. It was like a lot of choices that I felt made sense. And I was like, this is the 70. He was like, you know what? I am just going to play exactly this list. I'm not even going to try to like change anything or do anything different. And then I realized the hardest part of this deck to me is side decking. So that night at like 10 p.m., while I'm just sitting on my couch, I was really tired too. I was sitting with my laptop in my lap, and I decided I'm going to make a side deck guide for this 70 cards of frogs. I'm going to literally do a screenshot of it. I highlighted on Dueling Book all the cards to take out and all the cards to put in, and then screenshotted it and sent it to the Discord chat. And did that for every possible matchup. So every single matchup that Stang0 had, he was able to just go to the file, the Discord, and just say like, this is what you side for that.
Well, I even took it a step further and I made a spreadsheet. So it was like clean and easily accessible.
Yes.
And then
so you have to
even on
like
top of the fact as well, because you also had like some tiny little notes for some of the matchups. Like I even input those as well. So I even made it even more accessible after that.
Yes, which was actually I didn't know how beneficial it would be to do that, but I think that like you can speak to the Stang0, but I think that was like really impactful.
Not just even just the side the spreadsheet, but just the side decking guide in general, because I think the thing is that you always teach me is that you play more games 2s and 3s than you do game 1s.
Correct.
In any set of Yu-Gi-Oh. And it's just I think it's definitely very challenging for me in particular. Like I've gotten a little bit better at side decking once you've really beaten into my brain that like you don't take out your engine.
Right.
Like I've really stopped doing that for the most part.
Yeah.
But there's still definitely some challenges with it where it's just like, well, what card do I really know or can feel is like really low impact? The side decking guide especially really made it quite clear. It's like, well, you're playing against frogs. Junk Synchron in some matchups is going to be less impactful because you don't even know if your Junk Synchrons are going to go through.
Right, they're already
because they're already siding in DD Crow and shit. So some of the matchups we sided out Junk Synchrons for more impactful things. And like I didn't miss the Junk Synchrons, and I saw many of the replays that I watched today because I actually wrote some notes on some of my rounds. The DD Crows were definitely just kind of sitting there sometimes with like nothing really to do because I was just doing other things besides Junk Synchron
Soul
stuff.
Exchange Vanity's Fiend. It's like, oh
yeah,
DD Crow doesn't do shit.
Yeah, I mean that was really the important thing. Like side decking, I think is a really hard skill. From my personal experience as a newer player to like get correctly. So it was really good to have that guide because it just made it. It's funny when you wrote the the deck analysis video a few days ago. I don't know when it got uploaded, but it's very recently.
I watched that too.
Yeah,
I watch my own content, internet. All right, I watch the IMNerd content. I'm a fan of our content. I watch not all, but I watch almost all of Cairo's videos too.
Yeah, I watch everyone's videos. They're all good. So what it was with the video, it was actually funny. You were just like, yeah, I made the side decking guide, so Stang0 didn't really have to like ask what the side deck. And I just kind of laughed to myself because like still there is a dynamic with our team because I'm definitely the worst player of the two. So I always feel like I kind of have to work my way up. Like I kind of have to, perform to my best. I know at the end of the day, since we're all still friends, like it's not going to be like hard feelings and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But you still never want to let your boys down. Like you want to be there for your boys.
That's what's really cool about 3v3s is that it's a team aspect. Like me and Frazier were talking about this with all of the members you want to finish that we've had on so far. But whenever we talk about team YCSs, there's a dynamic of them that sometimes can make them feel like they have a bit more stakes just because you're playing for your boys.
Exactly.
Yep.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because a good team can beat two individual players who are better than them, right?
Yep.
And
yeah.
It's actually the same logic with doubles and smash.
One great example is this. I was actually about to bring that up. Me and Kenny versus Stang0.
All right. Well, I'm not going to even entertain this. No.
Wait,
we're just not going to even entertain this rant. I'm going to go back to my point that I was saying. We'll move on to more Yu-Gi-Oh related things.
No, we have to explain. Yeah,
because I want to know. I don't even know what's going on.
The very first time Cairo visited from Korea, when he came back to America, before he left, we had like a small little party as he was leaving. And on my deck, we hooked up like 2 melee setups. And then for whatever reason, we had like some bet because like, Stang0 was just beating everybody. And then we were like, yeah, but you can't beat me and Cairo. And he was just like, what? So we did a 2v1. We did a 2v1 in melee. And, we smacked them up a little bit.
Okay, that's hilarious. Like literally y'all were on a team. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. To more of my point that I was saying is that like definitely when I was competing in this tournament, like at some points like my nerves were pretty steady for the most part because like I knew I could rely on my team to like support me when I needed something.
Yeah, I can attest to that. You did not seem nervous when we were playing really at all. I think the only round where you were a little perturbed was against the hero beat guy earlier.
Yeah,
on.
the hero beat guy was definitely beating on me.
But that was only because you just drew so awkwardly game one, where if you had just drawn a monarch, you would have been able to just piece him out the game. But you got down to like your last 18 cards, and for some reason you
did not see a single one.
You didn't see a single monarch, and so you were like, I have so many broken cards in my hand, but it's to the point where like I need to draw a monarch, or else I'm actually going to lose to his nonsense. He just had like nonsense on the field.
Yeah, you would have drew a Caius, and he would have accused you of sacking.
So so with everything like that, the main thing of it is that I just found it funny when Fraser was just saying, yeah, Stang0 just didn't need to ask me about like side decking.
Because he definitely did.
Because I definitely did anyway.
Multiple times.
I definitely,
and Kyle, what did I keep saying?
I just like always checked in with him. I was just like, all right, do you have any special little Fraser Smith Fraser Smith intuition?
Like refer to the sheet. Look at the sheet.
He just kept saying refer to the sheet, but it didn't stop me from asking him anyway.
All of the special Fraser Smith was in the sheet.
Yes,
it was in the sheet.
I spent Kenny. I'm not even joking. I spent hours putting that, like not more than 2, but I spent almost up to 2 hours putting that side deck.
I think that's really smart. Regardless of whatever the reason to do it, if the initial reason was to do it for Stang0, I think that's incredibly useful and smart to just have for yourself as well.
That's what happened.
He even used it, in games. Yeah.
Bro, that's what you just said is exactly what ended up happening. I ended up referring to the sheet because when you're playing in a tournament and you're allowed to coach and you're allowed to talk to your teammates, so I'm like, Cairo, how are you doing? We're just having conversation, right? Your mind is in multiple different places. It's unlike a normal Yu-Gi-Oh tournament where you can just focus on the game, focus on what's in front of you. You don't have to worry about anyone else. You don't have to help anyone else. You don't have to ask, like, or if I need help, I don't have to ask it. Like, it's just completely you 1v1. And so all your attention can be on the game, which is how I usually play Yu-Gi-Oh. But when I have my attention divided like that, I actually could not side deck properly. I remember I was playing against Glad Beast after round 1. I played against it again round 2, crazy enough. And I was like, okay, what the hell did I side deck against this deck again? Mind you, I just played the deck, but I literally, because my brain is already scrambled, I'm like, let me refer to my own guide. And I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's actually really simple. I only saw like 5 cards for this deck. And because I really do believe that the Frog deck is just one. It is not even believe, but I know the Frog deck is a better deck than the Glad Beast deck. And despite the fact the matchup is bad, it is 100% winnable if you do the right things and if you draw like pretty decently. So as long as you do those things, like the matchup's pretty winnable. I'd rather take some of my brain power off of having to remember like how to side deck and just look at a guide and click the right pictures and then just click swap cards and be done with it. And that's what I did. I used that guide the entire tournament. So I thought I was making it for Stang0, but I really was making it for myself too, because I used it every single round, like every single round.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely a great thing about the side decking chart. It was definitely a great last minute like kind of thought that Fraser came up with.
Also,
and it benefited a lot. Also,
because I want to ask Kyra a question, but before I do that, so I'm looking at like the top 6 deck list, and I feel like we're the only team. I'm just like kind of glancing at it right now. I feel like we're the only team that had 2 people playing the exact same deck.
Yes.
We're the only one. Like there's no other team in this top 18 deck list right here that have 2 people playing the exact same 70 cards, which I thought going into this event
there'd be more of.
I thought that there would be teams where all 3 people are playing the exact, like we're all playing Black Wings, we're all playing Christia Swarm, we're all playing Frogs, but that just did not happen.
There's not really a downside to doing that. Like it's not like
I actually think there's an upside.
Like there's not a I think there's more upside than downside to doing that.
I think part of our success was that me and Stang0 played the exact same 70. So when it came time to help each other, we know exactly what the cards do and we play the deck and like
we know the interactions.
We know all of the interactions because we're playing the exact same deck. So if I lose, go ahead.
I was gonna say, imagine how annoying it would be if you and Stang0 played the same deck, but you guys had like 3 different tech cards.
Right.
Because then it would be like, I didn't even know you had that in the deck. Like, why I didn't know that was an option
like,
to come up.
Why are you playing that? Then we'd be arguing about that. Like, oh, you're playing shitty Thestalos. Like, why are you doing that? Stuff like that. I'm not saying Thestalos is actually shitty because he's actually my favorite monarch. But, you know, if he was playing that over like a Ryza and there was a situation where Ryza would have just been better, I would definitely be bitching about it and be like, oh my God, you put this Thestalos here. Yeah. Like, look at what's happening now. But yeah, we played the exact same deck. So what happens is when it's time to transition, let's say I win my game. Even though that never really happened, but let's say I win my game first and I get to go to Stang0's screen and I can say, okay, well, literally, this is the exact deck that I just finished playing around with. Let me look at the situation and analyze it. Okay, this is where we are. I know what's in the deck already. I know what's in the side deck already. I know exactly what you could have said. Like, I know everything about the deck, right? I made the deck. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've been piloting it for weeks now. So I feel really comfortable when he asked me a question. I'm thinking to myself, what would I do with that exact situation? Or I look at the screen and I'm like, what would I do with that exact situation?
Yeah, because in some situations when we were both playing, I would just ask like a simple thing, like not like overwhelming with information. I just give him a visual, like an auditory like explanation of what's going on, and I just be like, I got this in my hand. He did this. I'm thinking I can either do this or that. This is like turn one. There was nothing complicated.
There was a game where where Stang0 had a Vanity's Fiend up. Okay, he's been attacking with it, and his opponent's not been doing shit. And then it got to a point where Stang0 wanted to rise his opponent, and I was like, what? Wait, you want to rise? He was like, yeah, I feel like I could rise him. And I was like, but you have Vanity's Fiend out. He's like, yeah, I know. I was like, so just keep attacking. Why did he attack this man for game with that Vanity's Fiend? Like literally, the game ended with the guy just being attacked to death by Vanity's Fiend. I was like, just keep attacking.
That's something that some people don't realize is that like we've all said this a lot and we've all heard it a lot. But like, if whatever's working is working, just keep doing it.
Yes.
Like, there's no reason for me to change the game state.
Yeah, I remember, I'm not changing this shit. You do it.
Remember when Cairo was here in America and he was playing at AU? He was playing against somebody and he just had like the Stratos beatdown just happened. Like the guy just didn't do anything to stop it. Like Stratos just attacked every game, every turn for game. Like it was like, if Stratos isn't going to be stopped, he'll just kill you.
Yeah, I don't know why people want to change the game state. I'm talking about more advanced players, but I see people who are, have been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a very long time, still not understand that concept of just like, if the game state is already in your favor, you're already winning, just keep doing what you are doing. You don't have to push any harder. You don't have to do anything else. Your opponent wants you to do that because the current game state is you winning. So any change is better than what's going on right now. But yeah, I wanted to ask Cairo. So you change your Diva Hero list up a few cards every single tournament, almost every single week. Every time I see you playing it, there's just like a few things that are different. And I wanted to know, because you're the Diva Hero expert, like what was your thoughts going into this tournament? What about the meta change that made you include something like Mystic Tomato or any of the other choices?
In addition to Fraser's comment, because I wanted to ask you, just add right on to the previous thing. You didn't have like a side deck guide or anything, and you were playing a different deck from Fraser and Stang0. So what was also, in addition to Fraser's question, your process going into some side decking thing? Because like I said, I watched your whole video, and I don't think you really talked about your side deck options that much. You just kind of went into the next game.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of work backwards going forward, I wish that I could have like went in depth about which side deck choices I use. But this is kind of like a problem with Dueling Book. With the replays on Dueling Book, it doesn't show you which cards you decided out.
That really sucks.
And like, if it did, then I would have definitely explained during the tournament run why I chose to side out this card versus that card. So, I mean, that's definitely something that like
that makes sense.
Can fix on Dueling Book. But yeah, I didn't have a side deck guard. But the cool thing is I've played the deck so much that I kind of already know which cards to side in and which cards to side out. And then there were a few instances where I, also referred to my teammates because they're there.
Yeah, because he wanted to keep siding in Fossadina against Value Turbo.
Yeah, and I could tell that Cairo does not have as much experience against Value Turbo because
so I was asking my teammates like, hey, what do you think about this versus that?
Yes, I was like, I do not think Dyna's that good against that. Just because I've also been playing, Stang0 and I have been playing Value Turbo, and I've been playing with it against Stang0 and shit. And that deck is such a sleeper when it comes to its aggression, but also its defense is weird. Like it can weirdly defend itself really, really well in a way that you don't expect. I think that's what happened when you played 10-foot Dick. He mirror forced us out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And interestingly enough, I actually played Value Turbo for 3 out of the 8 rounds.
Thank God it was you. Thank God it was you, right? Because I do not like going Swap Frog, Dump Treeborn Pass against that shit.
Yeah, and then going into Fraser's question. So actually, I only changed my deck a bit. There were a total of 6 cards that I changed. There were 3 cards in the main deck that I changed from Deck Devastators 3, where I came in top 8, and 3 cards in the side deck that I changed as well. And pretty much the main reason why I made those changes, and actually I can tell specifically what they are because I'm pretty sure I wrote it down somewhere. But I changed Tragodia. I dropped Tragodia. I dropped Penguin Soldier and Penguin Soldier.
Yeah.
And I dropped one more card out the main, but actually I can't recall what it is. I have a video up about it. So, for anyone who's like really curious and they got to know, check out the video. It's only like 8 minutes long. But pretty much the main change I made was main decking Deck Devastation Virus.
Yes.
Because I think
that
the meta
card put in so much work for you with it.
Yes.
That card put in so much work.
It's actually funny. That was a tech that I did my last tournament run in Zombies. I was just like, now I'm gonna put Gilman in my main with Divas, and I'm gonna run one deck Devi, and it actually did a lot for me as well. So I'm glad that you did that, because it treated me well. I'm glad it treated you well.
Yeah, because the meta's at a point where it's just like so many people are playing decks that get absolutely ruined by Deck Devastation Virus. And, of course, there are some decks that it's not like the best against, like, for example, against Hero Beat or even against like dragons. Like, it depends, right?
It depends.
But at the very least, even against those decks, you get hand knowledge. So it's just like the hand knowledge that you get can be good enough to swing things in your favor and win the game. And even if like game one you're unable to resolve it, or you do resolve it but it doesn't do much, just side it out. Yeah, but against the majority of the decks, it's going to put in work, because it's crush card. It's basically crush card.
Yeah, can I say something right here too? So you main deck Devi, and I think that the meta is at a point. I agree with everything you said. I think the Deck Devi is good against most of the good decks. I'm looking at them again. I'm still on format library right now. I'm looking at the decks that the top 18 decks here, and most of them are affected by Deck Devi pretty strongly, right? So that's one. I think it hits harder than it won't. The other thing I want to say is that I think Deck Devi is getting worse now in games 2 and 3. And maybe it's just my bias because of what I'm doing to prevent Deck Devi. I side out, and I have Stang0 doing the same thing. We side out our small monsters. So games 2 and 3, I don't have Infernal Prodigy in my deck. I don't have Junk Synchron in my deck. The only small monsters I have in games 2 and 3 is actually going to be my frogs. And I don't care if those get Deck Devied if you don't do it immediately, right? Like if you don't hit my swap frog before I summon it, then and I noticed that the people who did I only got Deck Devied I think once, but when it did happen, he didn't do it until after I summoned Swap Frog and activated the effect to send Treeborn Frog. So it's like, well, I don't care what you do to the Swap Frog now. Like the Treeborn Frog's in the graveyard, and my hand when when I revealed my hand was like Caius, Ryza, Vanity's Fiend, Sirocco. So I side out all the small guys for these really big monsters in order to not have Deck Devi hit me as hard. And I think that that's what I would hope a lot of people are starting to realize they should be doing. So that way, Deck Devi is just getting worse and worse as people are prepping for the meta, because it is the meta to side multiple copies of it. Like some people side 3 copies of it. And I even think the card is extremely strong. I talk about it all the time. It's against like fairies, for example. It's just game, right? Like it's just, granted, that deck did not top at all. It hasn't done well, but that like against that deck, it is 100% all of their monsters.
Am I correct in saying in the video you put out, you considered putting it in the frog deck, right?
I did actually, because there's a couple things. I'm siding Sirocco, and obviously you could just do it with that. But then also, I'm also siding Vanity's Fiend. So that's another dark monster. And I'm never taking Caius out of my deck no matter what the hell I'm playing against. So I already have Caius just ×3, which every frog deck has. And then I'm siding triple Vanity's Fiend, double Sirocco. And then also Junk Synchron, just like Diva, but a little worse, can make a Catastor pretty easily. If I get access to my engine at any point, then I can just make Catastor as soon as I want. I'm also, after this tournament, I'm going to be playing double Catastor. I said this in my deck profile, but I think that double Catastor is 100% the way to go when you're playing multiple copies of Junk Synchron, just because that card outs so many things, and it makes the hero beat matchup even more in your favor, because you don't have to deal with Honest when you attack an alias. It also, most people playing like any deck, once they see your Catastor gone, they out it. They think that, oh, that's it for Catastor, because everyone just plays one. But
yeah, in
reality, that card is really, really good. And against Machina Control, that deck already has a hard time dealing with that. So imagine just like having a second one at any point. It's like, oh my God, like it took me so much to out the first one, and now you do that. What it does to Machina Control is so it outs their Fortress, which is the best card in the deck, their best monster anyway, and it makes them set monsters. And set monsters absolutely fucking suck against Monarchs. It's like, that's exactly what I want you to do. I want to go summon Catastor, attack your Fortress, it dies, I get a +1, and then you go set Raikou in response to the Catastor, which is like, okay, you want to out it, but then I gotta go draw, bring back Treeborn Frog, tribute for Ryza. It's like, you're in a terrible spot now, and that's the exact kind of thing that happens because of Catastor. It makes them play like very defensive and start setting monsters, and any deck that sets monsters is bad against Monarchs. Like automatically, your deck is just not good against the Monarch deck if you set at any point. Like if you're setting Raikos, Hamsters, and stuff like that, that is the ideal matchup for Monarchs. We want decks that do stuff like that because those decks make Ryza really strong, they make Caius really strong, and overall it's just not a good strategy against a deck that plays so face up. But yeah. So back to Cairo.
Yeah, I mean, so specifically the cards that I changed from last tournament to this one were Card Trooper, Penguin Soldier, and Tragodia, and I replaced them with Mystic Tomato, Enemy Controller, and Deck Devastation Virus. And for the side deck, I dropped Nobleman, Starlight Road, and Deck Devi because I switched it to the main, and I replaced that with double Cyber Dragon and Pulling the Rug. So those were the complete changes that I made from like last tournament to this one.
Let's talk about Cyber Dragon, because when you came here during Christmas break, I think it was, he played against Alex Flamer, a player at our local. He's kind of Yu-Gi-Oh famous anyway online, but Flamer was playing Machina Control, and I was sitting right next to Kyra AU, and when they were playing, I was like, why does he have so many cards? Like, they were playing Diva Hero versus Machina Control, and Flamer just had so many cards game one to Kyro's cards, and I couldn't understand because I couldn't fully focus on their game, but I just saw the struggle, and I was like, you probably need to side a bit more seriously for that deck, and just like anything machine-like in general, because I respect it. Like, I actually respect the Machina Control deck. I respect all of those like machine decks that people play, because I just don't want to lose to that. Like, I just think that I just don't want to lose.
It was the thing, because we actually recently did an MNP episode about the Machina Control deck, and we were like, damn, this deck plays really, really nice.
Yes, when we played it, it was running smooth.
We played it, and then I think Kyra did tell us that he's not siding Cyber Dragon, and we were both
at the time.
There were two things. That made me side Cyber Dragon. The first thing was what you just said, losing to Alex, so I was not happy about that.
Yeah, because you're better than Alex by a good amount. I was going to say by far.
And then it was funny because that duel even started off with, he literally said to me, Cairo, I've never beaten you before. I just...
Oh, no. And then that was the day.
That's right. And it's like, well,
he did say that, by the way. He literally sat down and said, I've just never beaten you before. And I was like, oh, dear God.
Yep. So, I mean, he got me. So that happened. And then the second thing was you being Frazier, were doing an analysis about, I think like the top 8 decks at maybe Deck Devastators 3 or another recent tournament.
Some tournament.
And you said everyone, except for me, sided Cyber Dragon. Everyone.
Yep. And also at the PS5 tournament, all 8 players sided Cyber Dragon. And the only person who didn't side 2 of it was Silverman, because Silverman is Silverman. He sided 1. He just sided 1 copy because he's a fucking rebel. You ever see that? You ever see that meme? You ever see that meme where everybody's on one side of the screen and then there's a kid on a balloon flying up in the air with a middle finger out, and it's like, be like Tom. Like Tom's that fuck everybody, be like Tom. That's Silverman to Yu-Gi-Oh's mindsets. He's like, I don't care what everyone thinks is correct. This is what I think is correct, and here's my little finger to everybody, and I'm flying up in the air. So everyone sided double Cyber Dragon at the PS5 tournament, which was 100 players, and he only sided 1 copy, but he still made top 8 because he's fucking goated. So, but yeah, Cyber Dragon. When I saw, and I didn't even. This is how much I trusted Cairo. The night before, when I was making a side deck guy, we jumped on the Discord call, all 3 of us, and we talked for a little bit. And I was like, this is the deck. I sent it to Stang0, whatever. And then Cairo, before he got off, because he was like, I'm about to go out. I'm about to enjoy my night. It's a different time in Korea right now because it's nighttime over here, but it's daytime for him. So he's about to go out, have a good night. And he's like, here's my deck just for, if you have any suggestions or whatever, like you just want to look at it. I'm going to put it in the Discord server, in the Discord call. And then, let me know what you think or whatever. But if not, then we'll just play tomorrow. So I looked at it like real brief and I said, I'm gonna be honest with you. I trust that whatever you did to your deck is just correct. I don't have any real critiques. And I was really happy when I saw Cyber Dragon in the side deck. That was like one of the things that made me genuinely like, okay, he gets it, because I was like, it's at the point where I think Cyber Dragon does more than just a machine thing. I had Stang0 in the zombie deck siding Cyber Dragon when you go second because he was playing triple Caius. I just think that like Cyber Dragon with Caius is in your deck is really strong because it's another way to burst it out of your hand. And Caius is ridiculous going second. It actually kind of steals going first from people. Like if you go first and you set a monster and I go draw, summon Cyber Dragon, tribute summon Caius, banish your face down monster, like I went first now. It's really strong.
Cyber Dragon Caius feels so good going second.
Yeah. So I like Cyber Dragon a lot. And obviously, Cairo always plays triple Caius. Like that's the first 3 cards of his deck. I'm looking at it right now. He plays triple Caius. So the Cyber Dragons, they actually can help with that if it ever comes up. And that's just an added, little thing that I like about it. Okay. So as far as the tournament structure, before we register, we had some drama go on where I told Stang0, I was like, we could register like right before the tournament, the morning of or the night before, or whatever. We'll register like right before, but we'll do it together. So somehow something got lost in translation, and Stang0 registered for the tournament for the 3v3. And I was like, Stang0, did you register by any chance for the 3v3? He was like, yeah, why? What's up? And I was like, when you did that, it made you the captain, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's not correct. I have to be the captain, not because of my ego, but because captains are going to play captains.
Yeah, you explained it to me. I didn't think it was that at first.
Yeah.
So I was just like, so what's the issue? Is it like there's got to be something? Because I know you don't really care about having captain next to your name.
No. I literally don't care at all. But my whole thing was like, and this is funny. I kept thinking about One Piece when this was happening. I don't know why, but like something about Luffy and him being the captain of the ship and all that. I was like, the captain has to play the captain in every other team, and that's how 3v3s are structured in real life. Like for all 3v3 YCSs that Konami hosts, they make it where player A, player B, and player C will play the opposing player A, player B, and player C throughout the entire tournament, right? So if Silverman is in front of Jesse Cotton, he's always going to play. Well, I guess that's okay. More accurately, Dominic Couch, who's the strongest player on Gonna Finish That and on Back for Seconds, right? Because he's the guy, he's the youngest. He plays the most Yu-Gi-Oh out of Silverman and Scott Page and everybody else. He's like the one who's the main Yu-Gi-Oh player. He's the captain of that team. He will definitely always be playing against the Christian Urinas, the Jesse Cottons, etc., because they'll always be the team captain on their side. So you always want your strongest player to be like seated with the other opposing team's strongest player. And theoretically, that should be in the middle, so that way when the match is over, and this is for in real life, but not necessarily on a online version, but in real life, you want to have the best player in the middle so that if anybody has any questions, right, they could be like, hey, I'm in a sticky situation right now. What do I do? And they could just kind of lean over instead of having to speak over a whole person to get to the best player or whatever. So if someone is going to be a designated like coach, right, that's also important to have them be like the captain or in the middle for in real life. Again, speaking just about in real life tournaments. But yeah, so when he registered, I was like, well, now you have to go back and fix it because I have to be the captain. I got to play against whoever the strongest team member is. And then we fixed that. And then the pairings come up for round one. And I look at the thing and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely the captain on this team, but I'm playing against like not a random, but I'm playing against a person who is not the captain of the opposing team. So I just thought the pairings are fucked. And on top of that, the bot that sends out the pairings just kept sending them out like 18 million times, which actually made me really, really nervous that we might be playing the wrong people and we're going to get like 30 minutes into the round and they're going to be like, oh, pairings were fucked up. You guys are all playing the wrong people. Start over. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, that's just not happening because I've already been playing this guy for too long. We're just like, this is who I'm playing. Like, you guys got to figure something else out. Fix it for round two. But for round one, and mind you, I lost round one. Like, I played against Glad Beast and it just obviously did not go my way as soon as I passed with Swap Frog in my hand. But I was like, we are not switching this up. But I was really confused and I'm actually still confused about this. And I don't know who to ask, but like, I do want to know why they did not have the captains of each team play the captains of the other team.
It was 100% supposed to be captains versus captains, and it just got fucked up.
That's how every 3v3 I've ever played in. But something did go. First of all, the bot was freaking out all day. Like there were so many things going on.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that Jazz like did. He was the event host for it on Format Library, and he did say pretty much like in the announcements, like and this was kind of slightly another reason why I signed up on my own, just because there's also a time delay with Cairo, and also what Jazz said. Jazz was talking about something like, this is the first time we're doing this type of event. This is going to be a new thing for the bot. We don't really know how it's going to work out. Like, make sure you sign up ample time so nothing weird happens. I'm like, all right, well that makes me nervous, so I'm going to sign up because like I just want to make sure that like we don't miss anything. But yeah, with all that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's funny because getting exactly into what you and Fraser were talking about. So the reason why you signed up Stang0 is because of the time difference between here and Korea, and you just wanted to make sure that we were definitely ready to play. And then Fraser wanted to make sure that things were right so that the captains can play, the captains. And then we go into round one, and then I'm playing the captain of round one.
Yeah. I was going to say, now I could just be wrong, but whatever team, because there was one round, I don't remember which round it was, but not Fraser, Cairo played against Cameron, and I assume Cameron was the captain of his team, but maybe I could be wrong.
And I mean, Captain may have been the captain of his team too. I played Cameron round 3, But the reason why like round one was so stressful because one, it's round one, and just like Fraser said, the bot was messing up, it was freaking out, and then two, the captain that I played against round one wasn't like some bum.
No,
it was like
no, he was not.
it was 10 foot. It was 10 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm mentioning a little bit about like 10 foot's accomplishments and my video, but like basically for those of you who don't know, 10 foot has topped 3 different Edison tournaments, major Edison tournaments, and he's even won like RBET5. So he's like really, 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 really cracked at the game. And it's just like, well, if I'm playing against him, like not that I don't have confidence in myself, but it's just like the whole point is that the captain should be playing the captain. But thankfully,
Cameron,
I was able to.
I looked it up. Their thing was Periphery of Undoing. That's the name of their team. I don't know what the hell that's about, but the captain was Cameron for that team. So you played against so I guess you played against the captain every single round.
Well, then I beat 7 captains. All right, I beat 7 out of 8 captains.
Yeah, like I don't know.
You're the captain slayer.
I don't know if all of them, because that's the other thing. I didn't verify. I don't think any of us verified. I think we can tell that by now. That each round we played against, like, if I always played player C, then the whole tournament I played player C. I don't know if that was true or not.
Yeah.
I don't know if the bot every round mixed up the 3 people and said, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. This time captains are playing each other. And
I do think that we did play different seatings. We were in different seats every round because I vaguely remember us confirming this, but it was already so scuffed at that point that like I just kind of
we stopped. I didn't care after round like 1.
I did the executive order. I was like, all right, none of us pay attention to this. Like it's scuffed, but like we just got to focus on winning. Just whatever.
Yes.
Like it's over.
What was
What
was the other member of that guy? It was Cam, Hydro Pump, and who was the last one?
I played against Rodnak, who is basically the best player in all of Edison. Like he is the best player in all of Edison. He's won tournaments. He also tops,
we had a really hard round 1. Like I played against I forget exactly how to say his tag. It's like a Lydio, yeah.
Oh the guy.
He topped pretty far with Diva Hero.
Yeah, he's the guy right after Cairo topped with Diva Hero. He topped with Diva Hero.
That's right. I'm just gonna say it's interesting. Right after True Hero topped literally the first tournament of the year, everybody's playing Diva Hero again.
Yeah, there was a lot of Diva Hero this tournament, which was great for me because
I love playing against that deck.
It was great for me because, like, as you said before, like me and Cairo play a lot, and the deck I have absolutely the most experience with is Diva Hero.
Yeah.
So much so when me and Cairo play, we always banter and like talk shit when we're playing. I call his plays before he even does them because I've seen them so many times, and he tells me to stay the fuck out my deck.
He tells me the same thing too when I watch, and I start saying what he's going to do before he does it.
That's absurd. I don't like that Fraser can do that. It's fucked up.
The other thing that's funny is so like we like you said, we always play with each other and we know each other's like plays and stuff like that. The night before, I was like, Cairo, I'm deciding between the Junk Synchron build of the Frog deck and the Diva build of the Frog deck. So I want to play with the Diva build because I already know how the Junk Synchron build runs. So we played one match the night before he went out before the tournament, and I ended up winning. But I always think that like the Frog deck just has a pretty good matchup against Diva Hero because of how hard it can be to kill the Frog deck. Like it's very resilient. And the one thing about Diva Hero, it kind of gasses itself in order to kill you. Like it exposes all of its cards to the field and it's like make a big push. And if you don't die, then it becomes like, okay, Econ take this guy, tribute for a Monarch, kill this one. Because if you don't know this about Edison format, Monarchs beat every single Synchro except Turbo Warrior. So if the Synchro is not called Turbo Warrior, which the reason why I'm even bringing that up is because no one plays that fucking thing. Only quick draw decks do, and quick draw decks suck. So like Turbo Warrior is not really in the format. So every Monarch that people summon, or every Synchro, I should say, that people summon, all Synchros lose to all Monarchs. So off the bat, because Diva Hero is a high Synchro deck, like that's what it primarily summons is Synchro monsters, it has a hard time dealing with Monarchs. And you make a big push, I go Threatening War, I go Battle Fader, which you can't even tell I have or not, I can go Gores, whatever, right? Whatever way I survive. Once I survive though, now your field is just out there and it's very easy for Monarch to like deal with established boards if it doesn't die. It's one of the best things about the deck. So when we played, I won that match and I was like, okay, even though I won, I still don't feel comfortable because I did end up drawing Gilman. And I said, oh, now I know what it feels like. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to leave the drawing of Gilman to you because I don't want multiple. Yeah, because if I play Gilman, that means that Stang0's playing Gilman too, right? So then that's just three people on the team.
You're adding more bricks to the team as a whole.
Yes. So I decided, I made the executive decision, like, fuck that. I'm actually just going to play 2 Junk Synchrons, not 3 Divas, and a Spine Gilman. And even though Diva is actually a little bit more consistent than Junk Synchron turn 1, I think that any turn outside of that, though, Junk Synchron is usually just a better card overall. Like, Diva's really cool because you can go Diva, Gilman, Synchro into like Catastro or Android turn 1, but I don't really want to be doing that with my Monarch deck anyway. Like, I honestly, that's not really the play I look for. So I decided, yeah, Junk Synchron is better overall. I love the play where you go summon Junk, bring back Swap Frog, then bounce the Junk Synchron to your hand. I spam that shit every chance I get. Like, if I could do that play against you, I'm doing it. It is so much plus, and it's so threatening because at any point, I can Brionic you, or I could Black Rose you, or I could Goyo Guardian you, or I could Catastro or Android. I could do anything. Like, I can just do anything I want, and you know it, and you can't do anything about it because I just keep bouncing the goddamn thing to my hand until I'm ready.
Yep.
And that's definitely like, we had our little kind of like training match before the tournament, so Fraser could see which build is better. Yeah. I even put my input in. I said the exact same thing that he just explained. I was like, you don't want to draw Gilman. And I was like, and you definitely don't want to draw Malicious. And
yes,
it's just
that was everything. I was playing Malicious.
Yeah, right. That was every other Cairo game. Every other Cairo game was either double Malicious or Spined Gilman.
Yes, and I was just about to say that, Kenny. Like people think, I don't want anyone to say, oh, a true hero, he gets lucky with Diva Hero, and that's why
a true hero would be stabbing people with a pitchfork. Don't get it mistaken.
Yeah. Like, I draw a fucking double Malicious, I draw a fucking Spine Gilman, and I just play, and I just don't complain.
Speaking of getting lucky, somebody called you the biggest sack in the game.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. I mean, like, this was bound to come up, right? So, first of all, let's get into the background, right? So, he's talking about Cameron Sanders, my round 3 opponent, who we just found out was the captain of their team.
It's
right?
Saunders, by the
now,
way.
I'm going to start off.
I have a great story about my round 3 as well to follow up, but go ahead.
I'm going to start off by saying I don't have beef with Cameron. Okay. I don't have beef with Cameron or any Yu-Gi-Oh player for that, matter of fact. Like,
we got beef, nigga. We got beef.
but I think Fraser mentioned this before. Like, I like winning, more than anyone.
You are the only person I know in the world who likes winning as much as I do. Okay, it scares me sometimes.
And I hate when people say like, "Oh, you won because you got lucky." Like that, infuriates me because it's like, no, I didn't win because I got lucky. I won because I'm better than you. And then it's just like, so Cameron calls me a sack for basically playing Heavy Storm and then summoning Diva, right? And it's just like, well, in my video, I'm like, I haven't drawn a single Diva. And then like, luck is also a part of the game.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to get lucky. I'm going to get lucky. But that doesn't mean like, oh, you just called the person a sack. And even that game where he called me a sack, he won. He won that game. He even won that game.
I didn't know
so
that.
It's just like, what was that comment for? It was
I think that same game, your opening hand was double Malicious.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. So It's just like, I'm not trying to hear someone calling me a sack for opening it up double Malicious, Yep. And even against 10-foot, he's like, how have you not drawn Spine Gilman yet? And it's like the game before I drew double fucking Malicious. And I said like, well, I'd rather fucking draw Spine Gilman any day than double Malicious. It's just like all these Yu-Gi-Oh players against the Glad Piece round 2, the guy's like, oh, why would you keep in Return from a Different Dimension?
You play Defizure turn 1. What you mean?
No, hold on.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, dude. He activated Defizure turn 1, and he's like, oh, I bet he's gonna side out Return. Like what?
Stang0, it's worse than that. Turn 1, the Glad Beast player, not only does he play Defissure, he plays out the rest of his turn, sets 3, and then puts another Defissure. He has 2 Defissures face up.
He does. Yeah, I remember that part. Yes. He does set the other. They activate the other
Defissures turn 1. So and then turn 2 or game 2 or game 3 or whatever, Cairo wins the game off return, and the guy gets mad that he kept returning against GBs, and Cairo was like, "You played Defissure? Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah. But going back to Cam, it's just like, I hate when people basically call me a sack, and another thing that people commonly complain about, and this happened at the last tournament, oh, you beat me because of your one-offs. And I think me and Fraser talked about this before, Diva Hero is a deck of one-offs. Essentially half of the deck is one-offs. And it's just like, guys, you just gotta take your L's. I lost one round in a tournament, and when the guy beat me, I didn't say, oh, you're a sack. It's just like, all right, GG, you got it, This was mentioned before too. It's just like, we're adults now. Most of us playing Yu-Gi-Oh at this point, we're not in our 20s, right? Most of us playing Yu-Gi-Oh at this point, like we're in our 30s or maybe late 20s. And it's like we've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for like a long time because Edison format was 10 years ago, right? So it's just like we've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for
13 years ago.
13, yeah. So it's like we've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time. So it's just like there's no reason to be petty like we're in high school, like we're teenagers anymore. Like let's just grow up and like, yeah, sometimes sacking happens. It's a part of the game. Like don't, bitch about it.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we got to air that out. I was talking to Cam. Cam's also my friend, and we were talking about the whole situation. I told him at the end of the day, we're all adults here. It's petty drama. Like, I don't think that there shouldn't be any real beef between you guys. I understand that at RBET Rulers, he beat you, and then at this tournament, you feel like you got sacked. And, I don't like losing either. I can be pretty salty, but I'm really good at, like, holding it in, I guess. Like, you won't catch me typing in the chat, typing in the chat, you're the biggest sack of all time.
Right. Unnecessary.
I won't do that, but I understand. I've been that person before in my life, so I understand where it comes from. It's not lost on me that, like, when you're passionate about something, when you hate losing. Look, for example, at the PS5 tournament, just to kind of play devil's advocate, the PS5 tournament, me and Cairo, we were both X1. And then one of the rounds, his opponent, who I didn't know at the time was playing Lightsworn, one of the sackiest decks you could play against, literally made to sack people. And when the match was over, I see Cairo literally standing up in his chair, not in his chair, but standing up from his chair while his opponent was still seated, while everyone at the table was still seated. I looked over, it almost looked like he was about to hit the guy or something. So I was really confused on what was happening because you could tell that he was standing up in a way that the emotion was not a good one. And so I'm looking at him, and part of me said, oh wait, maybe this is Cairo being a dick, and he actually beat the guy, and he's like, yeah, baby, like that type of thing. Like he stood up like that, like he drew a Miracle Fusion when he needed to or something. But as I'm looking at him, I'm like, all right, well, I got to pay attention to my opponent because in real life Yu-Gi-Oh, people can cheat really easily if you turn your eyes away. So I redirect my attention. Then I talked to Cairo after the match is over, and I'm like, what happened last round? And he was like, I got fucking sacked so hard just now by Lightsworn. And I was like, oh, is that why you were standing up pissed? And he was like, yes, I was so angry. And I was like, I've never seen you do that before. He was like, it was the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, I just got super, super, like 100% just the luckiest shit that could ever happen. And we're just to speak to like how passionate we could be about the game. So I get it, but I try not to go as far as to like insult people. But I will say this, if you start it, I'm going to finish it.
Yeah, so, and that's what happened with me and Cam. And it's like, even with that example you gave with the in real life, I still wish the opponent a good game.
Yes.
Even though I got sacked, and it wasn't like, I was pissed, but I still, as, sportsman-like contact, I was like, good game. And I picked up my stuff.
I wished him GG's, even though it wasn't GG's type of deal.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, he wasn't mad at me. And then I talked to him later, like, how'd you place and things like that. It was like, it's just a game. Like, of course I want to win. And the thing about the Cam situation that kind of made it even more like dramatic is like Cam in the Edison Discord, he was talking about the best Diva Hero deck list. And when I came in top 8 and I made my deck, he had all these critiques about like, oh, you shouldn't be playing this. You shouldn't be playing that. This card's good. This card's not good. And in my mind, I didn't vocalize this, but in my mind, I'm like, you have never done anything with the deck. I've been playing the deck for over a year. I know this deck like the back of my hand. So how can you say you have the Diva Hero deck, the best Diva Hero deck list? And it's just like, yeah, you should be playing this. You should be playing that. And it's just like, okay. And then a month later, Libido, the guy that Stang0 beat, his round 1, he topped with a deck similar to the version that Cam played, right? And then Cam's like, see, I told you, like, this is the version you should play, and XYZ. And then me and Cam play in the tournament, and Cam is actually known for playing Black Wings, right? So he knew what I was playing because he won much earlier than me. So he like kind of scoped me out. Plus a true hero, I usually play the same deck. So he already knew what I was playing, and he won the die roll. So I'm expecting him to go like Roller and Shore turn 1, and his turn 1 opening is Summon Diva. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it was actually a mirror match. He was playing Hero Beat, not so much Diva Hero, but he was playing Hero Beat. But, triple Miracle Fusion and, cards like those. So it's like
a lot of the same engine,
Right. A similar engine. So like, that's why it's like, it kind of like meant a lot, that duel, because like if he would have won, then he would just be like, well, see, once again, this is the version I told you that should be played. But like, he didn't win. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we got to air out that whole situation. Like you said, when you started this whole thing, there's no actual beef between you and Cameron. We're all adults. We're all, old men. And yeah, we're just playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! None of us want to lose. None of us want to get sacked. But guess what? It's Yu-Gi-Oh! And both of those things are going to happen. So we all just have to grow to accept that.
And a cool thing about the format, though, is that even though the top decks are becoming more and more solidified over time, there are still like decks that come out of nowhere that end up being really good that people didn't expect. But on top of that, there's room for tech choices in all of these decks. Like you can play Diva Hero and your deck list not be the same as somebody else's. Like it'll be mostly the same, but there's room for little tech choices. Like you said with the Frog deck, there's room to go like, I'm going to play a Diva version of this Frog deck, and it still be a really good deck.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to play. One of these days, I'm going to play Diva Hero, and you guys are going to see an ordeal. You're all going to see an ordeal.
Oh my god!
You're going to be putting people through an ordeal.
First of all, you already taught with Penguin Soldier, and you went first in Swiss, first after Swiss with Diva Hero with a Penguin Soldier in your main deck. I don't think that there's any other feats that you could do that are more impressive than that. Honestly, as far as tech choices, you would have to do something real wild for me to be like, that's more impressive than Penguin Soldier. Because I think Penguin Soldier, for as much as I tried to troll the community and be like, oh, it's actually good and all that, like Penguin Soldier's a rant. And Ordeal, I think, is genuinely a better card straight up than Penguin Soldier because that can actually, I've seen it actually in games. Like I've seen Luke be like, I can't attack because I'm just going to lose all my
He's
signals.
going through an ordeal. It's such a good card name too because it has such a one-liner.
I love the card art. Card art
like
too.
Kind of tone to it. You can just say, "Are you ready to go through an ordeal?"
Oh man!
All right, real quick. I have to, because we don't have too much time left. So there are questions from the IMNerd podcast Discord. So people in that Discord can propose questions for our guests. And some of them that they have, I just want to read them out and we could just discuss them really quick, like rapid fire style. So we have one that says, how difficult was it to decide which deck to play? I'll say it was really easy for me because I had already just played Beast Mode's tournament a week before with the Frog deck. And I knew I was just going to play Frogs for this tournament. And then I give the exact same deck to Stang0. Funny story real quick. I did ask Stang0, before we teamed up, what deck are you going to play for the 3v3? And he said zombies, and I said that is not correct. And then he was like, he
said try again. He hit the fucking like ant buzzer when I answered.
I was like, that is not the correct answer. Try again. And he was like, frogs? I was like, correct. Like you're playing frogs. You're going to play exactly the deck that I just played. It is the best deck as far as like how I feel right now. We're going to be playing frogs. And so that's how it wasn't hard for me at all, but then I just had to get Stang0 on board. And then he had like a thing where at first you would kind of feel like you weren't that confident in it. And I was surprised because I was like, I feel like you're actually good with this deck. Like,
yeah, because we were playing a lot of, Frazier kind of mentions it quite often. Frogs is probably the most played deck we have done on MMP. I think that's just true. It's not even a probably. But it was just more so like my mental, like, do I feel ready enough to do it? Like in a tournament where like, my boys got to rely on me. Like I was a little shaky on that, but he pulled me over to the other side and obviously it worked out great.
And then Cairo,
for me,
just
actually, I was.
That's all he plays. So it's just.
No, actually, I was debating between three decks. Actually, to be honest with you guys, I was debating between Lightsworn, because aside from this tournament, Lightsworn or some variant like Crishius Warren has taken a round off me every single tournament. Because it's just like JD is real, Crishius is real. So I was considering Lightsworn, but I played it in like a really small tournament. And I was just like, I don't want to my tournament line on what I mill. I was like, I just can't. Like, I just really can't. But I mean, the deck is really good, but I don't like it. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
The second choice was Black Wings because, I mean, even though many of you haven't seen me play Black Wings much, I do think I'm quite good with the deck because in the real Edison format, actually, I played Black Wings.
You were a Black Wing player.
Yeah, I was actually a Black Wing player. So I know how to play that deck like quite well. And I have videos of me playing it on my channel too. So I was considering Black Wings because they're the best deck. But then at the end of the day, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with
I'm
what
glad
I'm most
that you just stuck to the plan and played. I didn't know that you were debating between these other nonsense decks because I ain't trying to hear none of this. Okay,
listen,
if you finish first in Swiss in a format or something, you better. And when the time comes when you're on a 3v3 team and people rely on you, because I was relying on you, I was like, you need to be playing the best thing that you could possibly be playing, and for you, that is Diva Hero hands down.
Yeah.
And it's always important to stick to the plan. Like Frazier had the side deck plan. You said you didn't want to have your tournament rely on mills, and You also never set Sangan against Lightsworn. You gotta stick to the plan. Don't change the rules.
Yes.
Don't change the rules.
These are the rules of engagement.
The fact that I've been preaching this to the group for so long, I've been telling Stang0 in games 2 and 3, we are summoning our goblin zombies, we are summoning our pyramid turtles. I don't care. What can your opponent do to it? Like, I'm tired of people randomly crossing us out or randomly summoning Aaron. Well, Aaron's not like random, but if you're playing against a deck that could play Aaron and all that stuff, like Lightsworn or Christie Sworn or whatever, I just do not believe in setting your monsters so that they can get crossed out. Because cross out isn't that good, but it's good when you play into it. It's like actually pretty broken.
Yeah.
So
it's ruinous.
Yeah, and Cairo has experienced enough losses where he's like, you know what? I'm on board. Like I'm on. I was. Cairo says this. This one thing he always says to me is kind of funny. He's like, we always arrive at the same answer. You just get there a little faster. He always says that. Like when I say actually, like, do you see the play? He's like, I'll find it.
That's a funny quote.
He says it all the time. He's like, I'm gonna get to the right answer. It just might take me a little longer, but I'm gonna get there. He does. So it's good. We're good.
Yep.
But
very good.
Okay, so that was the deck question. The other question was from Hydro Pump, and this is kind of how I got that little petty segment, I guess. But Hydro Pump said, why does a true hero have to make Cam so salty? And we already answered that. That was just like they just had that relationship. Okay, Omni.
They're lovers deep down inside. They truly love each other.
Just last thing that I'll say, just since the question's being formally asked, like once again, just to clarify, there's no beef. And if Cam even wants to really talk about it, we can hop on a Discord call.
You guys should do a YouTube video together.
Yeah. You know what? It's time for the collab.
Yeah,
we could collab. You know what I mean? Because like I even mentioned in my video, I do respect him as a player.
Yes.
And another thing that made me like upset is like he also took jabs at me behind my back saying like, oh, he got a pity invite to, the first tournament. And it's just like, if you're saying all these things, how can you expect someone to respond nicely? Especially someone who you've never beaten, right? So it's just like, you know what I mean?
There it is.
I'm gonna be honest. I think you guys would get along, right? You guys both obviously really like Koreans. Okay, you guys.
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
Both of you really. Cairo lives in Korea. He really likes K-pop. Like, I feel like you guys are a match made in heaven.
I think that's probably why they hate each other so much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so Omni-Matu Gladiator, he says, what's everyone's most memorable win/loss? So mine is actually really simple. I didn't get to play a lot of my matches to the end because my teammates just, ended up winning so fast, and I had a different responsibility on my team, so that's why. But one of the wins
that's so cool though. Yes. I really like that dynamic of the team format.
Me too, Kenny. So the other thing is, my most memorable win was actually against a guy who won the tournament. He was on the team that won the tournament, Burndig. I don't know if it's actually a guy or a girl. So sorry if I'm like misgendering somebody, but I played against Burndig in round 5. And so we're 4-0, they're 4-0. And Burndig is playing Machina Control. And this round, Cairo finished really fast. I think this might be the same round where Cairo said to me, I opened up the Diva OTK.
The Diva Hero OTK, yep.
And so he ended up winning that round in like 10 to 15 minutes. So after that happened, Cairo was like, I'm going to help Stang0. You can actually focus on your match completely. And when he said that, I 2-0'd Burndig so bad. Yep. Like, I got to focus on that round and actually play it to the end. And I just 2-0'd the Machina Control deck with actual ease. Like, it felt so good to just like be completely present in the game. So that was my most memorable win. I think the other thing that was like just, well, we could talk about this later because the next thing is like coolest plays we did or something like that. And when that question comes up, I'll talk about that. But memorable loss for me was just round 1 because it was funny that I was playing against Glabby and my teammates just 2-0'd the other 2 people. We're not 2-0, but they just won both of their rounds. So I ended up winning that round too.
I think we actually both did 2-0. I'm not going to lie. Because I definitely
10 foot did that.
Yeah.
You remember it was that was the Mirror Force, right?
Yeah, that was the Mirror Force game. Now
10 foot's formidable. Don't sleep on 10 foot.
Yeah. Not only formidable, but I think that wasn't there also a top deck bird from a different dimension that changed the entire game?
That's why he won, because it should have been a 2-0.
You know what it was? We were spectating that game and we were all watching it, and I think what it was is that I think we came to the consensus that the play that, I'm just gonna, blush and, talk my shit for myself, the play that we ended up all seeing that was the best play is the one that I called out. But then he fucking one-upped me, and he did the most broken play of making like this fucking Stardust Sirocco pump thing. It was
Yes.
I don't know. I don't even remember.
It was a really
something
good play,
crazy.
but what really happened is he top decked the absolute best card in his entire deck at the time, and it was Burial. And if he had drawn any of his other, I think he had 18 cards in his deck at the time, I think. So if he had drawn anything else besides Burial, the game is over 100% because he's under Deck Devastation Virus, I believe.
Yeah, he was under Deck Devi.
Yeah. So it would have been 2-0. But he drew literally the best possible card. And the same thing happened to me when I played him in the exhibition match. When I reviewed the replay, which was actually like a day or two ago, I finally looked at it. And I was like, oh, like first of all, Spirit Reaper got drawn, then Brain Control got drawn in that order to win the game. And it was like, well, that's two specific one-ofs. Like it had to be just like that for the game to fall out of my favor. So, that type of thing happens. It seems like it's a common thing with him where if he's top decking or in a really bad spot, he happens to draw the best card that he could ever need. And I'm just like, all right. But so day one, I lost the Glad Beast. And I was kind of like, even though I was a little frustrated when the match first started and he ready my Treeborn Frog, I just started like making fun of the whole situation after that. I just started making light of it. Like I just didn't care anymore. I was like, well, I got script, guys. How are you all doing? And Stang0 was like, I'm actually doing pretty good over here. And Cairo was like, I won game 1. I'm about to win game 2. So I came and watched Cairo's game. And that's when, as soon as I came in, that's when shit started to go south. And then game 3, Cairo just, he actually was that the round where the Plague Spreader enemy controller play happened?
No, that was against a different opponent.
Okay, so
that wasn't 10 foot.
Okay.
What about you, Stang0? What was your most memorable
my most memorable, I have a few different ones, but collectively, my most thankful thing is that I ran into a lot of Diva Hero because I didn't have really an abundance of matchups where I wasn't really comfortable. Diva Hero is definitely my most comfortable matchup just because as I said before, I kind of know all of its plays, so like I kind of know how to navigate it really well. Most of the games where I was just doing a lot of crazy things with Econ, like I remember in my round 4, it was like Jay Warcano, Kano, something like that. He was playing Black Wings. He had a pretty formidable board at a time. My board was like Ocean, Stratos with a set Econ because I was protecting my Ocean to do some Stratos bouncing stuff. He goes Blizzard, makes Goyo, and I start thinking to myself, I'm like, should I Econ this attack? And I actually let it go through because I have Econ set. So what my plan was is that I was going to be like, all right, I'm going to take back my Ocean and then I'm going to Miracle. So he actually stops the play with Book of Mooning my Stratos. So I go, Econ, take your Goyo, take my Ocean back anyway, Caius over your Goyo, and now take away your back row. And then he has nothing for it. My Ocean gets the resolve. I start doing crazy things. I also heavy stormed multiple people like for like +2/+3 this tournament.
People were
everyone just let me heavy storm the shit out of it. Everyone today.
Multiple people we set all their back row without any actual protection, which was interesting.
Yes. Shout out to all my opponents that let me plus like 11 on them with heavy storm.
They literally just reset all of their. I think we both, all three of us actually played against opponents who just like when we did play the heavy, everything just went away.
Yeah,
it's funny because I guess real quick, I'll just answer this and we can move on to the next question. Because for me, my most memorable set was probably also between 10 foot, which was round 1, and that was definitely my hardest round of the 8. Even though I won that, definitely my hardest round of the 8. And he is another opponent. He went set 3 without Starlight Road or Solemn. And it's just like, I also had Heavy Storm, but I didn't play it because I'm like, well, I'm not just going to walk into, a Starlight Road. But that was my most memorable set.
That game would have been won immediately too.
Yeah, that's right.
So interesting to think about. But he's a really good player. He's really, really good at the game. And then, well, you only had one loss, so that can only be what did you end up losing to, Cairo?
I actually lost against Baby Turbo.
Okay.
And it was a swift 2-0. But game 2, there were things that I could have did to play a little bit better. But
you also tired this entire event because again, for people who don't know, Cairo lives in Korea and he is literally, when we're playing in the morning,
he's playing at twilight hours.
It is literally like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. for Cairo when we're playing. So it is not a good, any tournament he plays in is not a good time.
So actually it's funny that you mentioned that because I took that loss, and then right after I took that loss, I was like, Frazier, I'm going to take a nap. Because I was tired. That's actually why I lost, because I can't play the best, if you're groggy, if you're tired. So after that, because we were so far ahead in the bracket because we hadn't lost until then, and that loss happened at round 5. So we literally had more than an hour.
We had like 2 hours.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, Frazier, I'm going to take a nap.
I went to the fucking grocery store.
Yeah, you left. I got nervous. I was like, Kenny, I got so nervous. I was like, so how am I going to be able to get you guys back? Because I was like, I'm not leaving my apartment. So I didn't know what the fuck was going on. They both just left me. Kyra was like, I'm going to actual sleep, which scared the shit out of me. Because I was like, what if I was like, I don't know how to call you
if
in
he
Korea.
Doesn't wake up?
Yeah, like what if I call you and you don't answer? And when our opponent is like, yo, it's been like fucking 8 minutes. Like, what's going on? We're about to give you guys a game loss. I had the worst in my mind. And Kyra was like, no,
I promise he's just taking a shit. He'll be right back. He ate some bad food.
Yeah, I was so afraid when they both just left and I was by myself and I was watching the bracket frantically. I was like, okay, at the very least, these two teams haven't even started playing yet. So like we have plenty of time. And then like once they started playing, I was nervous. I was like, all right, so now there's like a whole match.
Yeah, if they just like scrape real quick.
Yes. I was like, if they scrape real quick, then those two people will play each other and then it'll be so I kept monitoring it, but in all honesty, it still just took like an hour and 40 minutes before we got to play again.
Oh, it was so long. I literally went to the I wasn't even in a rush.
But you know what I love? After we so we took our first loss in round 5, so we were 4-1. We come back round 6, I think it is. And we come back round 6 and like you two just scrape your opponent while
I was refreshed.
You know what's actually, I take it back. My round 6 game was incredible. My game 1, once again playing against Diva Hero, so know the deck like the back of my hand. My opponent's in such a bad straits that he goes tribute set malicious, and I was just like, well, I've played Kyra before, and if you've done that, then you're like a bitch with no ass. You ain't got shit. Shout outs to Little Wayne. So I rise at his Mally to the top, and he's getting beat down again, and it's over from there. And then game 2, he just like he explodes and goes on like Donkey Kong. Like he makes a crazy board of Dark Ends, Armory Arm, and Stardust or something like that, I believe. And I look at my hand, I'm like, I have Soul Exchange and Double Econ.
Oh, no.
And he does shoot at me. And he didn't think about this because what does Soul Exchange Double Econ do on a board of 3 monsters with Dark End on it? It gets rid of them all. It was 0. That's what the third monster was. So just with Soul Exchange Double Econ, I cleared his whole field and I set a Dupe Frog and it was over from there. He already used his Mally. He used Diva. He had no cards left. Yeah. He had no cards left after that. Literally one card in hand.
Once it puts his hand out there like that, it's like you actually have to kill me.
Yeah. He stopped my my instant Treeborn access by dust shooting the Substitute, but he gave me literally 3-card combo to out his board because he summoned out the Armory Arm, and he had to make the level 8 that he had to do. It was like a weird thing, but that's essentially what happened.
Yeah. Okay, so did everybody get to do theirs? We're good.
Yeah, you can move on.
Okay, and then the next question was just like, what were our coolest plays? Mine was hands down, and I think that either the streamers were watching that game, or I remember looking over at the watchers, and there was like 18 watchers in that game. But I was playing against Rawneck, so really high profile match right there, and we're playing a Frog Mirror. I won game 1 pretty easily because it looks like he just did not see access to Treeborn Frog until it was too late, and that's one of the things that makes, I think all mirror matches in Edison are bad. Like, in all honesty, I don't think there's a such thing as a good one. I think people are delusional. All mirror matches in Edison format are fucking swingy and trash. Yes, there are degrees of like, this one is a bit worse than the others. Like Black Wings is atrocious, but even still, like the Frog Mirror match is really not good either. One person sees access to Treeborn Frog, the other one doesn't, or like you just draw Monarch Train and I don't, or you luck a
Vanity's first.
You draw Vanity's Fiend and it comes out and I don't have an out to it. It's just like a lot of things that make it, you didn't actually do anything to outplay me. This was just your hand and I couldn't deal with it for whatever reason it is. So anyway, I play against Rawneck. It is not a real mirror match though. We're both playing frogs, but he's playing the Christia frog deck that he made a while ago and almost topped Deck Devastators 3 if he didn't get actually Deck Devastated for 10 cards. So he was playing that deck and he took so long to reveal it to me. When we were playing game 1, I was doing all this stuff to like try to figure out what the hell he was playing because I was like, this guy's playing frogs. I'm gonna fuck what you do. He Treacherous Trap Mold me, he Tragodia'd me, and he did one other card that was a one of. And I was like, yo, this guy is trying his hardest to not show me what he's playing. Like he's literally playing 1 card per turn. Every time I would do something, because I was being kind of aggressive, every time I would do something, he would just use 1 card. So I do one thing, he goes Treacherous Trap Mold. I'm like, okay, this doesn't matter. Then I go attack you directly. He's like, drop Tragodia. Then I do something else. He did another one up. Eventually, though, it got to a point where I did something that you have to respond to this. And he had to use Herald of Orange Light to negate it. And I was like, there we go. And I typed in the chat, I said, it took you long enough to reveal yourself. And so I win game 1. Now I have the knowledge that you are playing that deck. So game 2, we go in, obviously outside of my Vanity's Fiends and all that stuff. And game 2, he resolves Christia on me. And I was like, fuck. I have a Monarch in my hand, I have a Junk Synchron in my hand, and I have like Econ and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, my only play is, because he can't do more than the Christie anyway, because he can't summon him back his Treeborn Frog because she's on the field. So I was like, this is not the worst. If I can just Econ her to defense mode and then tribute for Caius next turn, I'm actually out of it. So I go set Junk Synchron, set Econ pass. And he goes draw, he goes draw, summon Treeborn Frog, creature swap. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, okay, I haven't been in this situation in a long time, but this is like an old school Yu-Gi-Oh thing. And it just like came back to me. He's like, oh yeah. I go Econ, tribute my Junk Synchron, my only monster, take your Treeborn Frog. So now the chain resolves backwards. And I creature swap, I give you your Treeborn Frog permanently, and you give me your Christia permanently. And so when that happened, I was like, oh no, like this got so bad. And then right as that happened, Cairo and Stang0 won again, and they were just like, yeah, we're done. You could just leave that match.
Yeah,
like,
he wanted to play that so badly.
I was like, I'm having fun.
But I'm having fun, yeah.
They were like, you need to leave that match right now. We're about to start playing our next opponent. The pairings are already up. And I was like, no, I really wanted to play this. I wanted to play this match out so bad. So I had to leave. And I was like, damn, I really wanted to play against you. He was like, same. And it was a really heartfelt moment because like he's one of the best players. I respect him a lot. And I'm currently a Frog player. So like I really, really, really like playing against him and stuff. And yeah, one day we'll get that run back.
A lot of the Frog revisions, like so many of the Frog decks, I feel like were his idea. Like, he came up with so many fucking Frog ideas.
All of them are. That guy
like
has made every
the only Frog iteration that I don't know if is 100% his idea, because I don't know if him and Karina are on the same team, but I know Karina was like one of the first person to blow up with Junk Synchron in their deck. Maybe I'm a little muddied on that history. If that's incorrect, someone let us know. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't think she was the first one to play Junk Synchron. I think pretty sure the Junk Synchron tech was discovered already, and I almost feel like the first person I saw with it was actually Gwari, who I played against round 6. He's playing Hero Beat. Gwari was the first person I think I saw playing Junk Synchron. I don't know if he's like, the person that came up with it, because that's incredibly hard to determine when we were talking about 13-year-old format. But I did see Gwari won a tournament. Gwari won Deck Devastators 2, I believe, or something like that, with Frogs. And I believe that Junk Synchron, that's where the triple Malicious Edge came from too, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ronak, really good player, but that was my best play. Cairo, what do you have? Do you remember something?
Oh, mine's is easy. You guys already spoke about it. It's the Diva Hero OTK.
Oh,
you know what was funny? Frazier, so once again, this is like kind of showing like Frazier's not like exactly super locked in with like the Diva Hero deck. When he said that, me and Cairo simultaneously started laughing.
Yep.
And Frazier was like, wait, what do you mean?
I was like, what the fuck?
So I'll just explain it, right? So pretty much the Diva Hero OTK is when you make a level 6, a level 8, and absolute 0 all on the same turn, right? So it comes up in rare instances, but it does come up more often than you would think. So my opening hand was Stratos, Mirror Force, Heavy Storm, Diva, and Miracle Fusion. So these were the 5 cards. So the 6th card actually doesn't even matter, right? So what's going to happen is, and I won the die roll, and for my tournament experience, by the way, I picked all rock. Every single round, I picked rock. And out of 8 rounds, I only went first twice. So I completely got obliterated in the RPS. But anyway, this was one of the 2 rounds that I actually went first. So I go Rhoda, and I Rhoda into Stratos, right? So that was my Stratos. And then Stratos add Malicious, set Mirror Force, pass. My opponent he's playing zombies, and I'm playing against best Yu-Gi-Oh player North America. Like, this is actually his tag, right? And then he goes, set a monster, set a back row, pass. And I draw for turn, and I laugh, and I play Heavy Storm. I heavy my own Mirror Force. I have his back row. It's something irrelevant. And I go, summon Diva, Diva get Diva, Synchro to Brio effect, pitch to Malicious in my hand I got from Stratos last turn, bounce your monster, banish Mali for Mali, make Colossal Fighter, activate Miracle Fusion, make 0, attack, game. And he lost literally in maybe 1 minute.
Yes.
And like game two, he also gets blown out the water. And that was the same set where I was like, Frazier, focus on your game. I got Stang0. And then Frazier completely said that was the hardest 2-0 he's ever had.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was.
that's my most memorable play.
I remember saying, because you guys were asking me like, so how's your game going? I said, basically, there's no way I can lose. I'm at that position. I get my games too. My favorite thing in Yu-Gi-Oh is getting my duel to a point where I can't lose the game, but I can play with my food a little bit. So because I knew I was already like going to win, I didn't mind holding my opponent in front of me and just like, just like slow grinding them out of their cards, not going too aggressive or anything like that. And at one point, there was one sketch moment where I think Burn Dick resolved a pot of avarice and drew off of it like Fossil Dyna and something. And I was like, oh, things got a little weird, but I'm still fine. Like, I'm still perfectly fine. But it did get like a little sketchy for a second. And I just like, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And I won. And yeah, it was a nice 2-0. So that was like my most memorable play, is the creature swap one with the Christia, where I ended up with a Christia in my deck that I did not put in there. And getting to actually play my round completely focused on just the round because Cairo won so damn fast.
What about you, Stang0?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my absolute favorite round, I'll take my easiest one against Hydro Pump. So here's the thing: Hydro Pump, very good duelist. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Also
traditionally, what was that?
He is really good at Mario Kart.
That's right.
Oh, really good at Mario Kart?
He's really good at Mario Kart.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, he's a competitor in many ventures then, right? So obviously, really good player and everything like that.
And he looks like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, just by the way. I don't know if you guys ever seen him, but he looks like Jon Snow.
When I'm facing off against him, I'm like, okay, this might be a little bit of a hard round, but like, I'm playing a good deck. I got my boys. Like we're doing good. We're up. We've won our first 2 rounds, and our first round was a showstopper. It could have stopped us right there and put us in losers, but we did it. So Hydro Pump, he's playing dragons. As he reveals to me his very first turn. Dragons are awful. Dragons suck so bad. I'm talking about dropping all like. I'm talking about dropping cards out of his hand at end phase bad 3 turns in a row.
Oh, wait. He was dropping cards out of his hand?
Yes. He was so bricked out of his mind. He was a Mason man. All right. He was so unplayably couldn't do anything. Like 3 to 4 turns in a row.
Not this.
He was getting the froggy beat down. It was not close.
When I was playing Rodneck, I remember I was like, I'm winning game 1. He's not really doing anything. I can't even tell what he's playing. And then Stang0 was like, well, my opponent's not doing anything either. And he was like, but he's playing dragons. And I was like, well, that's a really bad matchup for the frog deck. Like the frog deck does not want to play against Dragon Turbo. So I was nervous, but Stang0 was like, I'm attacking him and nothing is happening. So I'm just going to keep doing this.
This is when I had 2 swap frogs on the board at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening every time I kept attacking him. I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is just going to keep happening, I guess, then.
And then game 2, what ended up happening in game 2?
So game 2, what happened is that it was a lot of the same stuff. He was just draw passing, and I got the best open in our list, which Frazier did talk about in the deck profile. But for those who didn't tune in, Frazier included Ocean in the list. So your best open with this deck is that you get 2 of the best normal summons in the game. You summon Stratos, search for Ocean, special summon Swap, pitching Ocean, and sending Treeborn.
So broken.
This gets all of your deck online. Monarchs are live, and then any Miracle Fusions drawn after that pretty much gets the train of Absolute Zero just going on forever and ever.
That opening, and you get to bounce either Stratos or Swap Frog to your hand.
Correct. So I actually set T-Roar. I set T-Roar with that open as well because I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep them both on the field because, next turn, like if I can Monarch, like I'll bounce the Monarch back with the Swap Frog on the field, or next turn, if I need to search for Stratos again, I'll do that again. So it was just a lot of the same stuff. He was getting the froggy beat down. And then what happened is that Hydro Pump, he conceded because eventually like he dropped the Gores or something like that. And then Econ did Broken Things. And yeah, he just pretty much lost just due to the Dragons being so awful. And I was just saying to myself, I was just like, Hydro Pump's a little too good of a player for me to beat him so just trivial like that. Like he should be a lot harder for me. So like Hydro Pump, if you're listening, stop playing Dragons.
Like Luke Feeney, right? It's like, Luke, stop playing fucking Macro Monarch.
Like, you're better than this.
So the thing that he said in the chat is that he said, dang, had gas next turn. And I looked at the replay today, like just to get my notes on everything. He did not have gas next turn, by the way. His next absolute draw was bricked hand, so his hand was still bricked, and he drew a cards of consonants that didn't do anything, and there was lethal on board. His next draw was a a upstart goblin into, I believe, a whitestone. So at least he could go, cards of consonance whitestone, but he wasn't living until 2 turns from then. So like he said, gas for next turn. I was like, no, there was no gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that was my favorite round, the easiest
Any
one.
more questions?
I think there's only one left. Let me just see if this is okay. I think that this is a Yu-Gi-Oh question because I know we don't have much time left. So what exactly does a Yu-Gi-Oh team do in a 1v1 game? How does a team effect benefit players from a preparation standpoint and functionality in the event? I think that this whole podcast has been basically answering that question though.
Yeah, that's true.
I prepared a side deck guide, something I would never do if I was competing against Stang0 and Cairo and stuff like that, right? Like I would never show Cairo, this is what I side against Diva Hero. This is what I side. You know what I mean? So like in a competition where it's 1v1 and we're all in it for our own benefit, that type of thing doesn't happen. But in a team setting where coaching is like the biggest thing. I mentioned this in my deck profile, but like the better players on a team have more lives in a 3v3, which I think is actually scary because now one of my best friends, Silverman, has won 2 YCSs, 2 team YCSs. He's one of 2 players who's done that. So him and Dominic Couch, I think, are the only 2 people who have won 2 YCSs that were team YCSs. And it's because the best player on the team basically gets to, if they lose, like if they brick or anything goes wrong, right? Like let's say, because sometimes you lose because your opponent just opened insane, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like,
just shit happens. Like your deck fails you, or their deck doesn't fail them.
Right. So in a tournament like this one, though, I lost round 1, but Cairo and Stang0 just scraped. So it's like, okay, it doesn't matter that I lost to Glad Beast. I played against my worst matchup. That's unfortunate. Like, why am I playing against? First of all, people should just not be playing Glad Beast in tournaments, but that's a different. They also should be playing Dragon Turbo, but like these are different conversations. But yeah, I ran into my worst possible matchup, and it's like if this was a 1v1, I would just be in the losers bracket from round 1, right? Like I would just been in the losers bracket, and that really fucking blows. So there's a lot. Like the team thing is actually really good for strong players, I would say. And if you have people who are really good at explaining things and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I think that the team thing is just really, really cool. I hope they do more of these. I definitely would just team with the same people.
I got another really simple way to, and I think everyone who, just understands competing in general will get this. If you have 1 player playing and 2 people watching your game, and if you've ever been in this situation, it's always easier for the person who's watching the game to realize what the better play is.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in the seat, and this is actually what happened in Fraser's last round where he lost, he was so infatuated and so tunnel vision on one thing that we actually missed a crucial play that we could have done to win our last round in round 8 because he was sitting under the pressure of, he was on the hot seat, right? And in a 3v3 format, misplays and, unoptimal playing should be pretty much put down to a near 0 because you have someone who is completely removed from the situation being able to objectively, analyze what's going on the board and what your win conditions and stuff like that.
Yep.
So that's the other benefit of a team situation is that the person who's under the stress can anchor on someone who, is not staring down a potential loss and stuff like that. They'd be like, well, isn't this just the better play? If you do this, this, and that. And it happened multiple times. There was the situation that Kyra said in his video about the malicious not being used to make a level 8.
Yeah, that one was wild.
And I pointed it out so quickly. I was just I pointed it out so quickly. I was like, well, shouldn't you just save the malicious so your Caius can stay alive if he ends up clearing or doing something with this board? Because a Goyo Guardian Dark Arm is still deadly. You don't need to use level 8.
He didn't have any traps to set if he wanted to make a level 8. If you make Stardust and you have even 1 trap, I'll be like, that's the correct play. But the fact that it was you're making a level 8, but you don't have anything to set besides Heavy Storm is kind of I don't really like that. Let's hold the malicious. So that play was definitely correct. But that's what happens when you are in the game, like you said, and you're more focused on whatever's been going on, because it's a story being told to you, the person playing the game, that everyone else is not really privy to. They don't feel what you've been you get reads on your opponent. You start to think okay, last game, this is what happened. You know what I mean? You have it goes both ways. It's not just because you're not in the game that you're 100% right on whatever you're thinking or seeing, because that would be
not 100% right, but you can I feel like sometimes when you're in the hot seat, there's a bigger boogeyman than there actually is.
There definitely is. My boogeyman is always going to be brain control. And I think that boogeyman, honestly, as much as it haunts me, I think that it's best that I always remember that like a lot of games, like I think more games than not come down to brain control, which is why I'm playing a deck with 4 of them. But like brain control scares me so much. And basically, I know Cairo has to go soon, but I'll just try to quickly recap our story on what happened at the end. So we are down to game 3. Cairo won. Stang0 lost to zombies. I'm playing against Black Wings. Game 1, I get Whirlwind Short, so it's not a game at all. I also bricked anyway. Like my hand was double Treeborn Frog and double Threatening Roar. So like I wasn't winning even if he didn't open that, it looked like. So game 1, I just lose. Game 2, I win. And then game 3, we get into a situation where I get deck devied. My hand is a bunch of big monsters, Sirocco, Ryza, Vanity's Fiend, Caius, and stuff like that. And so I'm at 4,500 life points. My opponent is at 3,900 life points. And they have a Sirocco on the field with a skill drain face up. And so I'm like, okay, I could Heavy Storm and summon Caius, and that'll do 1,000 plus 24. So I'll do 3,400 and drop him to 500, which will put him under brain control. So brain control will not be able to win the game. And then I still have the Sirocco in my hand. So if he summons a Blackwing, now the skill drain's gone. I'll be able to just Sirocco over whatever he does next turn, because it's a full Blackwing deck. It's not value turbo, it's like straight up Blackwings. So that was my plan, is to mainly play around brain control. What I didn't think of at the time was that I would also be playing around Kalut with that play, because if I went, so the other play was to tribute for Caius with leaving the skill drain up and holding the Heavy Storm and holding the Sirocco. Tribute for Caius and just attacking the Sirocco straight up. Just being like, I can just beat this, deal 400. Then next turn, whenever he retaliates, because I know he has a live value in the grave, if he retaliates with a value play and then another Blackwing, I just instantly win next turn by going Heavy Storm, Sirocco, pump, attack over your smaller monster, and you die instantly. Didn't see that during the actual thing, and I was so afraid that even if I did see it, because we talked about it before I made the play, it was like, I do not want to lose to him just going, draw, and he had 2 cards in hand already, so it's like, draw, activate brain control, take your Caius, banish for value, attack cream. Like literally just that simple. I did not want to lose that way. And I think that the same thing would have happened if it was draw, like, the same thing happens. So it's if I Heavy Storm, then I lose to Blizzard. And if I don't Heavy Storm, I lose to brain control. So it's like, what do you want to choose to lose to? And Stang0 was trying to explain why the Caius play without using Heavy Storm was the better play. But the problem was, and he said this to me when we talked about it after, is like, he wasn't able to articulate it in a way that could really convince me until like after we had all calmed down, the situation's over, the tournament's over. Yeah. And we talked about it again. And he was like, with Skillgen on the field, like, how can he really kill you anyway? Like, what could he do off the top of the deck outside of brain control? Because you're already saying that you think he's going to brain control you for game, but like outside of that, what else could he do? And if you think about it more, with the skill gen on the field, he can't use Blizzard. You can't really do that much damage, even if he draws Kalut, right? So he has Sirocco on the field, and he goes, okay, banish for value, summon a guy, Sirocco attack, Kalut, and then the other guy attacks directly. That's still not 4,500 damage. So there's nothing that he can really draw that would kill me in that situation, outside of course, brain control. On the contrary, if you Heavy Storm, then things like what actually happened. So what ended up happening, and we kind of got unlucky here, but what ended up happening is I went Heavy Storm, summon Caius, drop you to 500 life points. He goes draw, summon Sirocco, banish, summon a monster for value, pump the Armor Master to make it 4,500, attack over Caius, and I happen to drop to a life points that is too low for Gores. And on my next turn, I draw Gores. I still have the Sirocco in my hand, but my opponent had just drawn a back row and set it. So I was like, okay, well, if that back row is like Pulling a Rug or Deck Devastation Virus or like any of these cards, right, that people will side deck, or even like DD Crow, anything, I just win instantly. I go summon Sirocco and he goes Bottomless. And then looking at the replay, that's the card that he had drawn for turn. Bottomless is actually terrible against Monarchs, but in that specific scenario, it was the best card that he could have drawn, because it perfectly outed my Sirocco, and we lost because of it. So if I had held the Heavy Storm and just went summon Caius, attack over Sirocco, or even taking it a step further, but this is super hindsight, but like summon Caius, don't attack the Sirocco at all, but just to summon the Caius out there, and then next turn he goes banish for value to make a Armor Master attack Caius, Sirocco attack directly, the next turn I go draw, activate Heavy Storm, summon Sirocco, pump, attack over Sirocco for game. So there was like, basically not playing the Heavy Storm is the correct play there, but it was really hard to justify that when you're focused on just brain control. And that's what I was focused on. I was focused on brain control. And it sucks because, like, you don't know what what one is going to kill you. So if my opponent had just drawn brain control or already had brain control, we would have been super salty. And it was like, damn, we committed to a play. It's like, all right, this is what I think is correct. This is what we're doing. Dropping the 500. If he's going to retaliate, I'm going to summon a Sirocco. I'm still going to win with the Sirocco.
And that was the thing at the end of the day, is that, like, you know, it came to the point where, you know, it was Cairo and Frazier versus me in terms of the decision. And, you know, I still definitely felt like what I was saying was right, you know, just to point again, like, I didn't really explain it the way that, like, I could have to maybe sway.
Yeah, because you were focused on Blizzard, and I was like, I don't really care about Blizzard as much. Like, I wasn't really focused on Blizzard. I was like, I'm more focused on specifically fucking brain control. Like, I was like, that card trivializes this game.
It did come to a point, though, where, you know, I thought about it to myself, like, when I was still in disagreement, I was just like, you know what? We've made it this far trusting each other. There was there was multiple times in the tournament where we needed to trust each other's judgment.
That's the other thing.
I was just like, you know what?
Yeah. The thing
I was just like, you know what? I'm throwing it in.
The reason why we went with that decision as well was because one, he sided into skill drain, and two, at that point in the game state, a Blizzard was already in the grave.
Yes.
So it's just like, we were thinking logically, if this player made it this far, why would he keep in 3 Blizzards and skill drain? So the odds were like either the one brain control or having theoretically
maybe one of
Blizzard.
Yeah, one of a Blizzard. And the other thing was, and I didn't realize this in a situation, but if we just go summon Caius and leave the skill drain up and attack the Sirocco, if he has Kalut, we lose instantly.
Right, and we didn't consider that at that time.
We didn't consider it at the time, but when Stang0 was like, "Oh, Blizzard," if I was like super on it, I would have been like, "Well, there's theoretically 2 Blizzards left, but there's also 2. There was 1 Kalut in the grave, so there's also, and they don't side out any of those. So there's also 2 Kaluts left. So it's like, okay, your 2 Blizzards match my 2 Kaluts. So if I go attack here without playing Heavy Storm and the Caius doesn't get an effect, then I go attack the Sirocco with Caius for 400. He goes, I'm going to Kalut you. You are now at 45. You drop 400, so you're at 41. Draw, banish for value, summon Armor Master, crack for 45 for game. Like, I had no protection, so I just instantly lose the game if he just does that and there's a Kalut. So it's like, when you look at the replay, and I will do at some point like a replay analysis of like all of my rounds. But when you look at the replay, it's a really tough one because, you know, you're playing with the information that you can gather. But the thing about Black Wings is that you really have so many things that can kill you at any moment. So you don't really know, like, you can't really play around Black Wings too well. There's always something that kills you with that deck. That's what's annoying about it. It's like, if I Heavy Stormed him and he just drew Blizzard for turn, I was just dead right there. Like, he goes Blizzard, bring back a guy, make Brionic, bounce your Caius to your hand, banish for Armor Master, attack for game. Like, just that simple. If he just drawn Blizzard for turn, I lose instantly. So it's like, no matter what you do, you can always say when you're playing against Black Wings, this kills me right here. So I think that in that matchup, you just have to say, well, you just won't fucking have it. I need them to just be like, you just don't have brain control.
Yeah, you can only prepare for so many things. Before we get out of here, I just wanted to say one thing on the question that was asked about, like, playing in a team format. How does that benefit a single player game like this? I mean, you guys already mentioned coaching, and it's really big. If you look at games that aren't turn-based, basketball, melee, any fighting game, coaching is huge. It does 2 really big things. 1, it helps you see things that you couldn't normally see, and 2, it can also help alleviate mental pressure, like, because you have, like, the camaraderie, so that it relieves mental pressure a bit. But in a turn-based game like Yu-Gi-Oh, where the coach can literally be like, pause, and you guys can go over a play, like, whereas in basketball, you have to, like, get Kobe to come over to the sideline, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, in a turn-based game, coaching has an even bigger impact than it would in, say, basketball or a fighting game.
Super agree.
Yep.
I mean, I played the role this tournament. My biggest role was coach. That was my biggest role. Like, I am obviously a really good technical player and all that stuff, but I think that I do really well with helping people to identify the correct play and to just, like, I don't know, help their mindset of how to properly think about Yu-Gi-Oh. And in a team setting, that is just paramount to doing well. And I think that one of the reasons why we did do well, if I was like to my own horn, is because me and Stang0 played the exact same deck, and any situation that he was in, I was able to identify and play through it properly if needed. So, like, that is a really, really big part of the team aspect. And it makes me feel comfortable doing this again. Like, if we had to do another 3v3 in a month, we could for sure run the exact same.
I hope you guys do. I hope they do more of them, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, well, they definitely will do more of them for sure. I would think. But, like, I feel so comfortable if we had to play the exact same team dynamic. I mean, we could probably change up our decks and stuff like that or whatever, but I feel comfortable with the structure of our team, right? Like I trust Cairo, I trust Stang0, and I think that we did a really good job finishing in third place. We lost in losers finals. I'm not used to playing in double elimination tournaments until playing in Edison format. Like that wasn't a thing ever in Yu-Gi-Oh in real life. So playing like these double elimination tournaments is interesting because there's no such thing as like losers finals in Yu-Gi-Oh and Swiss in real life. But online, I kind of like, because I watch so much Smash content and I'll see like, oh, this guy's in losers, like MK Leo's in losers finals, whatever. So saying I was in losers finals felt so cool in a weird way.
I know what you mean.
I don't want to be in losers per se, but I still like that it was the finals, right? Like losers finals, like I'm going to grands if I win this round, and we could have won that round. So
yeah. Well, guys, I mean, I'm going to head off because as you mentioned earlier, I'm in Korea. So in Korea, it's working time.
All right,
time to work.
Definitely had fun joining you guys, and shout outs to the power of camaraderie.
Yes. It's the power of friendship. Cairo, I'm gonna we could do a collab for your channel. I'll come on your channel and play some Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, that'd be really Cairo, cool. Before you have to leave, I just need a little bit of lore because honestly, I just followed it because we were just being dumb and we were celebrating when we were winning. Can you tell me what exactly remember? What is that? Because I was just saying it because it was just celebratory, but you need to tell me.
That's just things that Drake says. That's all. They're all like things that like Drake.
Okay, it's from the song "Worst Behavior." I'm on my worst behavior.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Me and Fraser are big Drake fans.
Yes, huge Drake fans.
I just needed to catch along with that because it was funny. You said it, and I hopped on it real quick. I was just like,
you guys were popping off. I was so calm during the whole tournament. You two motherfuckers would be like, yes, we won, and like just going crazy. And they're like, Fraser, close out that game. And I'm like, but I was having a good time playing my opponents. Like, no, close it out. Like they were just popping off. Anyway, though, thank you, Cairo. I'm gonna hop on your channel. After I get back from California, I'm going to the YCS this weekend and to win some mats. Thank you. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast featuring the house, because the house always wins. And we did a really, really good job with this one. All right. So before we get out of here, I need to give a shout out to the 56 people on our Patreon actively right now. If you don't know, we have exclusive content, monthly episodes that only come out on Patreon. So check that out using our link tree or just going on patreon.com/IMNerd. And without further ado, the people who are there who have been supporting us, we have Connie, Austin, Leon. Wait. This is not what is going on. All right, Rogue and Tier 2 aren't bad. They just aren't great. Somehow the name of that one is early in the thing. Oh, that's actually Josh Quest. You asshole. You changed your name to that? I was like, what is going on? Anyway, Connie, Austin, Leon, Rogan Tier 2 aren't bad. They just aren't great. Garen Williams, Xavier. And then we got Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Vinny Casello, Dominique Roberts. You fucking troll. Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, CJ, Dove K Dad 1, Dan Brable, First to Home. I'm gonna get you. Dalis Fernaris, Estat Akuma, Mitchell Nels, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safiridis, Vince Marquette. I never forget. Dallas Bailey, Doc and Ziggy, Roz Weiss, Nick Stang0, Hunter, our 2-time national champion, Vincent Zen, Sarah Maria, Sunny Top Cup Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa. You owe me big time for that, all right? Jalen Haskins, Arale Melfi Slump, Chris Lynn, Wookie 159, Connor LK, MSW 2389, Edison Club, Kyle Batelho, Brandon Moore, Sugal, Nick, Mr. Soltide, Nafa, Corey Fauser, Omar Ramos, Elijah Barfoff, and then
True Hero, Tyler Tadeo, Majora X, Anthony, Matt Glenny, and the original Rogan Tier 2 are the polite terms for bad deck.
That is hilarious. He changed Quest changed his name in the most trolly shit I've ever seen ever. He changed his name on Patreon to be what I've been saying. I'm not going to say it because Kenny always has to read out that name. And I obviously don't feel like Rogan Tier 2, he said Rogan Tier 2 aren't bad. They just aren't great. So he changed his name in a way to still get me to say it, which is actually brilliant. That was actually, I really fuck with that. That was good. That was a really good troll. I was so confused just now. I was like, how did this guy get in the first?
I could see it.
I was like, how did he subscribe in 2021? That's not possible. Like, I remember our day ones and yeah. Okay. Well, that was a good troll. It was very successful. As you can see, I'm like completely flustered now. So I'm going to get the hell out of here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and do what makes you happy, including 3v3ing with two of your longtime friends. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right. See everybody. I'm going to try my best to close OBS and stuff. This is a tricky situation. It's lagging.